PPT you're going to Shruti?
Yes.
Okay, let me I'll send you a chat message.
So we do have people joining in. Welcome, everyone. And it's a Thursday afternoon, and generally afternoons post lunch are called graveyard slots. So, we feel sleepy, and especially on an online digital platform. So I hope we can keep you energized in this afternoon time, and we all do learn and take away a lot from this webinar one. Okay.
I believe that education holds the key to a bright future, not only in transforming lives, but in helping communities to see their power to shape the world. Muktangan stands at the forefront. We have dedicated ourselves to unlocking the true potential within every child, teacher, and parent. At the heart of this our educational journey lay the possibility of a powerful synergy, a harmonious connection between the teacher, the child, the parent, and the community.
Over the years, we have developed into an integrated teacher and school education model. Every year, thousands of children thrive, benefiting from holistic learning experiences. Our commitment to excellence is evident in the impressive school pass percentage, averaging at an astounding 99% over 10 years of SSC examinations. The impact continues even after school, with 98% of our alumni pursuing higher education and becoming productive contributors to society. We try to achieve harmony with global goals and national policies. A significant number of points mandated in policy documents like the NEP 2020 have already been pioneered, adopted, and illustrated in the Muktangan model.
Our impact extends beyond our classrooms. Through our outreach project, we have developed a strong partnership with the BMC and various NGO and academic organizations.
As a local teacher, when first I get to work with school, teach them our conduct, literacy and numeracy skills. When I started taking PTMs as a point, but later on when I took the activities of literacy and numeracy, parents participated in the activity and they understood the importance of education in child.
As we gaze upon the future, let us forge ahead, hand in hand. Join us on this extraordinary journey as we continue to make a difference. Every child, every teacher, and every parent has a role to play. Let's unlock boundless potentials and create a world where education knows no boundaries. Fostering this engagement is not just a choice, it is an imperative if we seek to kindle flames of transformation.
We invite you to join hands with us to grow and spread our experiences and learnings with other communities and partner organizations. Your support will enable thousands of other children to realize their fullest potential. Thank you for your support.
I believe that
Oh, she's joined.
Good afternoon, Supriya.
Good
Glad to
afternoon.
see you're on time. So we'd like to begin with you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Supriya?
Yeah.
So it's 3-1. Vanita, should we begin and
Yes,
stick
yes,
to
sure.
the time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so hello and welcome everyone to the first webinar of a series of 3 webinars that will be hosted by Muktangan through January, February, and March. I hope you all saw the short film on Muktangan, the work that we're involved in. And of course, if you're interested to know more, you can visit us, a personal visit if you're in the city, or log on to our website. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join us today as we talk about the impact of teachers' beliefs in maintaining good health and well-being of students. We will just start. Let's go through the agenda for today's talk and a few requests, please. Yeah, so we are going to start with now Miss Supriya Atal. I think we'll just change that order because of there was a timing difference. So we will start with the impact of teachers' beliefs on the well-being of students with Miss Supriya Atal, followed by the impact of student-teacher relationships on the good health and well-being by Dr. Anuradha Rai, and then the good health and well-being of students as part of our curriculum by Ms. Priya Aga, and then parent-teacher relationships, the impact of that on the good health and well-being of students by Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee. Okay, can we go on to the requests, Shruti, please? Okay, so I would request all the, those who are not speaking at the time to please keep yourselves on mute in case there's some, external disturbance. Please keep your videos on. It makes for better interaction and connecting, and that's what we want to do through this webinar, is connect with everyone. While the speakers are speaking, if you have any questions that come to mind or any suggestions, please put them in the chat box. And the last 10 minutes, like you saw, we have an open forum where we will be addressing a few questions. If you have a question directed to a particular speaker, please reference the speaker in your question. Or if it is a general question, which can be answered by any of them, then, so we will take up these questions, and those which we cannot answer in this session, we will still be noting them down, and we will check in with you later and try to respond to them in the best way we can. Please attend the entire session, because at the end, we would like to receive your feedback on this webinar. So, just please kindly stay on for the entire session. We will now start with I just want to introduce our esteemed speakers. So we have with us Ms. Supriya Atal, who's an advisor for Muktangan Education Trust and also Director of Studies at Bombay International School. She's had more than 18 years of experience being an educator, and she's been instrumental in developing the international curriculum continuum for 3 schools in Mumbai: Jamnabai Narsi, Dhirubhai Ambani International, and Bombay International. She's also the program leader for the IB in the Asia Pacific region. She has been instrumental in the development of some innovative practices in Muktangan as well, and her contribution here is much appreciated. Next is Dr. Anuradha Rai. So she is the director of Gender Equity India Pilot Project of ECHO. Dr. Anuradha Rai is the founder principal of Ambiance Public School in Gurgaon. She's also the director for the Gender Equity Project, like I said, for ECHO. ECHO stands for Extension for Community Healthcare Outcomes. It's a non-profit trust with a mission to promote equity in healthcare. And when they decided to get into education as well, Dr. Anuradha Rai is the one who has spearheaded that program and developed it. So she comes here today with a vast, diverse, and rich experience spanning 3 decades as an educationist, during which she has launched 12 programs for K-12 teachers and school leaders. She was awarded an honorary literature award by University of South America in 2018, and she received the State Teacher Award by the Federation of Private Schools in 2012. Thank you, Dr. Anuradha Rai, for agreeing to do this webinar with us. Then next is Miss Priya Aga. She is the Wellbeing and Pastoral Care Coordinator at Bombay International School. Priya is a trained facilitator for the C learning curriculum, C standing for Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning. She has conducted multiple sessions for teachers from various schools, including Bombay International School, Akanksha, and the Bombay Teachers Training Center. She has completed her course in cognitively based compassion training. Priya is currently the Wellbeing and Pastoral Care Coordinator at Bombay International School and is committed to working with students to help them develop essential skills such as awareness, resilience, and compassion. Then we have Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee. Thank you, Priya, for being here despite all your personal constraints. Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee, who's the Senior Director, Content and Curriculum at Arpan Foundation. Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee has a doctorate in sociology from Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi and is working with the Arpan Foundation in the areas of gender, sexuality, medicine, technology, violence, child rights and abuse, prevention and intervention. She has worked extensively for the past 17 years on issues of gender, health, violence, and child sexual abuse. Dr. Manjeer has also authored and presented papers in various national and international forums and networks. Thank you so much, Dr. Manjeer, for agreeing to be a part of this webinar. I now invite Ms. Jumana Rampurawala, who is our Chief Program Officer at Muktangan, who will also be the facilitator for this webinar, to kindly take this discussion forward. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Vinita. I must say I'm blown away listening to all our esteemed speakers and what they are doing and they have been doing. So we have a bouquet of very experienced and well-known people in the field of education, especially the topic of well-being. So we'll start with our webinar today. Teachers' beliefs mostly are shaped by, their own personal experiences, the cultural background they come from, and educational philosophies that they have. And these beliefs serve as powerful filters that shape how they, an individual sees themselves, the world, and the other people around them, say Nelson and Guerrera, 2009. So I think it's a very relevant and pertinent topic in today's education sector. So to look at teachers' beliefs, and therefore Muktangan has decided that we'll not do much of literacy numeracy, but we'll focus on this. And this webinar theme was thought of. So without further ado, let's delve into the topic of teacher beliefs with our first speaker, Mrs. Supriya Atal, who will set the context by enlightening us on what are beliefs and how are they formed. So over to you, Mrs. Supriya Atal.
Right, thank you, Jumana. You can hear me, Jumana?
Yes, we do.
Right, so very, very good afternoon to everyone. And we're going to begin by actually thinking about, no, I'll just wait till we get to the first one.
Yeah.
We're going to begin the session actually by thinking a little bit about our own. And we would like
there is some audio disturbance, Priya. Something is shifting around.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes. Thank you.
So we're going to begin with our own teaching manifesto, and we would like you to complete any one of the 3 sentences that you can see on your screen and type your response by completing the sentence into the chat window. So an effective teacher is one who believes, or I believe that students in a school learn well if, or I believe that student well-being is linked to. So for example, you could say that an effective teacher is one who believes that our brains are neuroplastic, or I believe that students learn well based on their innate abilities, or the opposite of that. I believe that students can learn regardless of their innate abilities. So what we'd like to see is some action on the chat window, and we'll give you about 45 seconds to just write in your response to any one of these 3 prompts. Yeah, so over to you,
Yes. So requesting everyone to use the chat box and fill in any one of the statements in the chat box so that we can go ahead. I don't know how it would happen on the ones who've joined from YouTube, Shruti. Um,
I'll just have a look at it.
yeah. So any one of the statements, if you could fill in and send in the chat box.
Here we have someone who says, who believes a child's holistic development.
Thank you.
So, Jumana, would you just help me by reading out the responses as they come in?
Yes, sure. I'll do that. So we have some saying, I believe that students in the school learn well if they feel safe and accepted. Students learn well if sufficiently engaged. Students learn well in an emotionally safe environment. Effective teacher, okay, we have one on that, who believes in openness to learning and unlearn for themselves and students. Okay, so we have a few of those. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. I think several of you are actually referring to our main theme actually for this program, and I think they're really thoughtful. They really bring out how diverse the nature of beliefs can be in a teaching community. And now let's go a little deeper and examine how these beliefs shape our practices and how these beliefs shape the overall educational experience that we can actually create for our students. Next slide, please. So, what are beliefs? A belief is something that we accept as true. A teacher may formulate a belief based on a fact or an opinion or even an assumption. For example, many of you on this webinar may strongly believe that every child has potential, or you may believe that every child can be successful, or that formative assessments are fundamental to good learning. But the important thing is, why do these beliefs matter? These beliefs matter, they matter enormously. And they matter because the impact of teachers' beliefs and attitudes with respect to student motivation, with respect to student learning and student achievement is huge. Teachers' beliefs not only determine the classroom climate that they're able to create, but also shape the teaching and learning processes, the assessments, and more importantly, they impact well-being of students. Next slide, please. So here's a quote from the book Poor Economics by the Indian-born economist Abhijit Banerjee, who along with Esther Duflo was awarded the 2019 Nobel Prize for Economics. And he says, children give up school when their teachers signal to them that they are not smart enough to master the curriculum. The authors essentially allude to the fact that education is a social process and that a child's intellectual functioning at school is very intimately related to the relationships with teachers, and these relationships do get impacted hugely by a teacher's beliefs. And of course, you will soon be listening to both Dr. Anuradha and Dr. Manjeer, who will talk much more about the correlation between teacher beliefs and relationships with students. Next slide, please. So, our beliefs can set the emotional tone in the classroom. For example, are we equitable in our teaching style? Are we equitable with the kind of resources that we give to different types of learners? Are we equitable in our feedback that we give to different types of learners? Beliefs can also influence the nature of feedback that we give to students. Research shows that creating an emotionally supportive environment for children can improve the well-being of students drastically. And simple strategies such as scheduling one-on-one sessions with students to understand their challenges, to understand how they receive support, open communication with students, and being just broadly non-judgmental inside the classroom go a long way in enhancing student well-being. Next slide, please. In the 21st century, increased interest in well-being within education can be attributed to economists such as Amartya Sen. Amartya Sen introduced the measure of well-being as an alternative measure to GDP in order to measure success. He brought in the concept of development index, which includes the measurement of well-being. And following his research, the OECD and the United Nations began measuring children's well-being along with their academic outcomes. Moving on to some more contemporary research, the self-determination theory, popularly called SDT, is a modern theory of well-being, and it has direct applicability to educators and teachers. This theory suggests that students have three core psychological needs, and when these needs are fulfilled, students enjoy well-being. The first one is competence. Competence refers to succeeding at challenging endeavors, and here, when students are able to achieve the desired outcomes, they experience well-being. The second core need is the need for autonomy. When students have autonomy and experience freedom of choice and are in control of their own actions, they enjoy well-being. The third factor is one of connectedness, is one of relationships, and the feeling that they're connected to their peers, they're connected to their teachers, and can rely on them helps their well-being. Next slide, please. A little more contemporary research, and this one is the PERMA model. So with respect to teacher beliefs and well-being, experts also refer to the PERMA model, which is made up of 5 pillars of student well-being. It connects well with the model that I just spoke about, and the PERMA model talks about positive emotions and the ability to remain optimistic about one's future, engagement in activities that keep students in the present and in a constant state of flow, relationships with peers and teachers, a sense of great purpose, and the accomplishment of goals. Both these theories are really quite useful to understand what constitutes student well-being and how teacher beliefs can impact student well-being. Next slide, please. In essence, teachers' beliefs and attitudes act as a lens through which they interpret and respond to the dynamic and complex nature of the classroom. Recognizing the profound impact of these beliefs, teachers have both the opportunity and the responsibility to cultivate a positive, nurturing, and supportive learning environment to increase and enhance student well-being. Next slide, please. So teachers who believe in holistic education are likely to recognize the importance of addressing not only academic knowledge, but also social, emotional, and physical well-being. Such teachers incorporate activities and discussions that promote the well-rounded development of their students. And I would like to conclude my part by saying and quoting His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who says, "I don't believe that change in education will come through prayer alone. Change will only come through the action that we teachers take." Thank you.
Superb. Thank you, Supriya, for that context that you've already given us on what are beliefs and how they impact, and the economist, argument or the take on student well-being. So we really now know that, teacher beliefs play a crucial role in fostering good health and well-being of a student. And, and hence I would like to here to say that Muktangan, trains community members before they start teaching in our schools. And we, in our pre-service teacher education program, therefore have a very important course called Teacher Beliefs and Understanding Self. This is exactly why, Supriya, because we really believe that when a teacher, before they even start teaching, they need to have this, constant thinking of, because they come with their own beliefs, we get them to, in this course, we get them to, teacher trainees, to question what are their personal beliefs and mindsets about education and about students, about the parents, the communities. And it's an interesting way take on how they think about education and about students, about the parents, about school curriculums, etc. So wonderful. And we'll now move on to our next speaker. And before that, I would like to just add that Rokesh has suggested that teacher beliefs are, descriptive, evaluative, and prescriptive in nature. And so often they have this in their head. They either have this belief about, and from their belief, and because that belief is descriptive, prescriptive, evaluative, their interactions with their students also, come from those beliefs. Because beliefs, actually you cannot see beliefs of a teacher, but what they do and what they say and how they behave with their students, we get to know, what are these teacher beliefs. So to understand further, we have Dr. Anuradha Rai to share her knowledge and beliefs regarding the student-teacher relationship and its impact on well-being. So Dr. Anuradha Rai, over to you.
Thank you, Jumanna, and a very good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Supriya, for setting the context so well. In fact, you made my life, my job pretty easy. So I'll take off from where Supriya left. So we will talk about what is it that the student-teacher relationship should ideally be like, and how does it, impact student well-being. So can I have the next slide, please? So there's a slight one activity that I want you to respond to. So which was your favorite subject in school? You can send your responses, all of you. Which was your favorite subject in school? I'm waiting.
We request all participants to please type in the chat box. We would look forward to your answers and interacting through the chat box.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Nisreen. Thank you, Fatima.
Yeah, I see economics, English, music, art, geography, mathematics. So, okay, a follow-up question is, any reason why it was your favorite subject? What made it your favorite subject? You can send in your responses. The teacher. Yes, absolutely. So it is very often, even if you didn't really initially enjoy, but it was a teacher who kind of, was like a magnet because she believed in you or he believed in you. And of course, their approach and, the way they kind of made you feel wanted, made you feel valued, so that is what attracted you. And again, I wanted to ask that, is a teacher's role limited to only ensuring that the academic content is, kind of academic proficiency, or does it go beyond, the academic proficiency? Anybody?
Dr. Rai, would you like anyone to unmute and answer?
Yeah, please feel free. If somebody wants to say, answer, I'm good with that, or you can send a chat. A lot beyond Nisreen has said, yeah.
Anyone would like to raise their hands and Shruti could unmute them to answer that. Ms. Sakina Rashid has said English because that teacher is my favorite. So there has to be a reason why. Sakina Rashid, if you could
Zainab has raised her hand. I think she wants to answer.
Yes, Zainab, please go ahead. Shruti, could you unmute Zainab? There's a
Yes, you
Zainab.
can unmute yourself.
Zainab, please
Good
go ahead.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry I cannot on my camera because of the low battery. Actually, ma'am, my science teacher is my mentor, and she has always gone beyond the textbooks to teach. And not only that, when we were in her class, there was a healthy atmosphere of learning, and it was imparted in a way. It was like, we were friendly, but we were not friends. So that made us a way of learning much healthy atmosphere in the classroom. So she is still remembered and we are still in contact. After so many years of my teaching, 18 years of my teaching, and around 25 years I've left her from the school, but yes, she's still in contact with me because of this reason.
Yeah, thank you, Zainab. So beautifully put. So again, you reiterated, the value of a teacher. We can never kind of talk enough about it and what you've said. So can I have that my slide deck back, please? So today the world that we live in, a very fast-paced world. So it's not just, yeah, our role goes much beyond, as some of you have said, building that academic proficiency. And it is like the wholesome kind of development, individuals who are not just, who are successful in the academic or material sense, but, are happy people, well-adjusted people, are problem solver, are contributors, are global citizens, who are caring, respectful, all that. So it's a big ask, so to say. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is rooted in positive psychology, that when we are talking about, optimal functioning, it doesn't mean only physical. It is the social, how well adjusted we are, how easy it is for us to build relationships, our mental and emotional well-being. So, and also focus on positive traits, like what we call strength-based approach. So all that is part of when we talk about, the role of a teacher and, a role of a school in, ensuring the well-being in the true sense, so to say. Next slide, please. So I think Supriya has already talked about a bit about well-being. I'll just, share with you some more kind of, information on that. So well-being, the term learner well-being is often characterized in numerous ways. But what we are talking about is subjective well-being, where positive attributes, character, strong points, and this is key, the absence of psychological stress like sorrow, worry, and anxiety. That is what well-being is, and it's in the recent years, it's become obvious that this should be, the prime role, or, it should the focus of all educational institutions. Can I have the next slide, please? So when we are talking about, when we ask students, research shows, when we ask students what characterizes well-being is when they feel safe, they feel happy, they feel respected, loved, and healthy. And in fact, these were some of the responses you had sent to Supriya's questions, and she also kind of highlighted this. So therefore, as educators, what should our role be? To nurture and cultivate emotional well-being, and ensure, and this is what empowers students, and, they become productive citizens. So I think this is the key. This is what we need to focus on as educators. Next slide, please. So when we talk about student-teacher relationship, we are talking about a positive relationship, because the student feels valued. So I think Zainab just gave such a beautiful example, how she remembers her teacher even after 25 years. And I'm sure most of us have this kind of a, experience. And it is a relationship that is based on trust and mutual respect and empathy, so not just cognitive, even emotional kind of, so you can relate to your students, what is happening to them. And really having that thing to get to know your student, as an individual, not just okay by name and what they can do or what their grades are, but what makes them tick, what is it that they are all about, what are their strengths, and valuing their individuality because each student is different, appreciating those differences, and also looking at the constructs, whether it is gender or anything that is kind of there which can impact. So looking at it with from that lens, and also building the socio-emotional kind of learning in our students. And so whether it is, I think somebody talked about relationship building or perspective taking or whatever it would be. So all those, when a teacher works on it, helps, the relation, the bond to be stronger, and the students feel kind of safe. And so it is also based on fairness and transparency, which Supriya already alluded to. So I won't go, I think she explained it so beautifully. Next slide, please. So, and what are the advantages of, having, if you have a positive relationship? So she talked about, how if a student feels that, the teacher doesn't believe in them, they don't want to go any further. So when we have a positive relationship, a safe, thriving learning environment, it helps improve, you feel good, you feel valued, and you have stronger socio-emotional skills, you have resilience, you are ready to make decisions. And again, she talked about autonomous, engaged, and confident, like how these are three things that in a when we build this in students, they feel happy, they feel confident, they feel valued. So then again, it helps in improved learning, and they are willing to take risk to move out of their safe space because they know that somebody believes in them. And of course, it also helps reduce behavior issues. Next, please. And how does one build? I think so. Supriya already talked about it, and just very brief. So caring, having their, so students will know, even if you are a little strict with them, they know you have their best interest, talking to them, asking about their day. So not just focusing on okay the transactional aspect, the human, the getting to know, listening, and asking for their opinion, and identifying each student's learning style as well as their strengths. So everyone has a strength. So rather than looking at lack, as teachers, we have this thing, we look at lack, what is missing, that putting a border and working on those. Let's work on the strengths, so strength-based approach, using that what is that they offer. And then also offering opportunities to share and to shine, so in, ensuring that every student gets an opportunity to be successful, and encouraging them through constructive feedback. So, being this thing particular about what is good, what can be improved, what is something, that they can work on. Next, please. And also, one of the things is that through positive communication. So it could be not often, every time it needn't be verbal, it could also be non-verbal. So sometimes you would have seen, a teacher just comes and, stands next to you and just puts her hand over your shoulder, and that's enough for you to, feel good, you're feeling nervous. And so proximity, a stroke, credibility, affirmation, having, some kind of a humor, just making the whole environment friendly and comfortable, and appreciating, so acknowledging their efforts. All this is part of it. And these actually, help a student to kind of, feel that they have this support. And so all of these behaviors encourage and stimulate successful interactions between the student and the teacher. And it creates a lively environment when, you want to go back to school. Next, please. And so I think to summarize, I would say that, well-being, when we talk about well-being, it is about positive emotions and, and also ensuring that, no stress or anxiety. And yeah, and then engagement. So when students are engaged, they feel again, fulfilled. And it's also about relationship, and it's about having a meaning and purpose. So as a teacher, whenever you ask, why am I teaching this? It's not because it's in my syllabus. What is it that I want? What is the higher purpose? What is my mission? And same way, when you interact with your students, if you help them to understand, what is the bigger goal, what is the meaning, what is the purpose, what is it that they are looking for, and setting goals for themselves and accomplishing those goals, and moving on, all that is what makes people feel valued and fulfilled. And that is what, as teachers, our role is. I think next slide is the last slide. I think I'm done. Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Rai, for drawing out the small nuances of what is well-being, and giving us some very very relevant and very these things just go unseen, but very nicely you've brought out what small things can make how small things can make a difference in the classroom. And I was just thinking back to we had these class teachers, and always that relationship with the class teacher was so important to us. And I was just thinking about that. And then every year, when we would get go into the next standard, we would all say, oh, I hope I get this class teacher, I hope I. And then always that thing, and oh, my class teacher is this one. So all that, I was just reflecting that why were we doing that? We were doing that obviously because of all the things you said, that these class teachers were the ones who were really caring, listening, and that's why we wanted to be in their class. So just brought back a lot of memories of that. So we'll go ahead, with our next speaker. So Fang has suggested that teachers' beliefs influence classroom practices. And often classroom practices conflict with teacher beliefs. I mean, it has been found that sometimes teachers do believe in certain things, but their classroom practices are not in sync with what they believe. And teachers are aware, most teachers are aware of this disharmony and this inconsistency. So, and especially because they are running after their subjects, their syllabus. So, they think that, oh, I don't have time to sit and care, and I don't have time to have that one-on-one and build that relationship. So they are aware, they know their beliefs are in the right place, but the classroom practices are not. And therefore, what is it that is required today? And you very well brought out, Dr. Rai, about that, why student well-being is important, because it will lead to an empowered citizen. And I think that's what we all want. We want our students to be empowered citizens. So our next speaker is going to be Ms. Priya, who's going to tell us about having a robust well-being curriculum. And this having a curriculum with shared goals and objectives with students help in dissipating this inconsistency and this disharmony that teachers have. So if there's a curriculum in place in a school, I think it does help and puts the pressure away. So over to you, Ms. Priya. Looking forward to hearing about the well-being curriculum.
Thank you, Jomana. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Lovely. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about student well-being. And for the next few minutes, I will be talking about the curriculum that we are implementing at our school, Bombay International, and also a little bit about how we implement the curriculum. Can I have the next slide, please?
Shruti, can we go to the next
Can
slide?
we have the next slide? Just a second.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so the curriculum that we are implementing at Bombay International is C-Learning, SEE. And this stands for social, emotional, and ethical learning. This has been developed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in conjunction with the Emory University. Two very important aspects of C learning is the cultivation of emotional literacy and ethical literacy. Now, emotional literacy is easier to understand than the other one. It is about understanding one's emotions, how to handle them, how to empathize with others. It basically allows for harmonious relationships. And ultimately, emotional literacy allows students to refrain from very reactive, impulsive behavior and making decisions that are then in their own best interest. C learning also aims to promote ethical literacy. And the ethical literacy is not meant to be understood as any adherence to any specific externally imposed ethical mandates or rules. It is not based on any particular religion. It is completely agnostic of culture, religion, but it is really based on an approach that says that common experience, common humanity, interdependence are all good ways of understanding the challenges that we all face. And it also comes from the fact that it also stems from teaching students to engage in very reasoned discourses around issues, understanding situations with compassion, but using compassion with discernment, understanding the importance of compassion, humility, all of that, which basically then allows our students to demonstrate ethical literacy. The framework basically includes 3 dimensions and 3 domains. Can we have the next slide, please? And the 3 dimensions are awareness, compassion, and engagement. Basically, in order to have any constructive action, we need to be aware of the problem, and we must then develop or have some level of compassion, some emotional investment, and then that allows us to finally engage and to act skillfully to deal with the problem. The 3 awareness, compassion, and engagement all basically are parallel to head, heart, and hand. And when we look at all of these 3 in the personal domain, in the social domain, and in the systems domain, can I have the next slide, please? We come up with what is called the grid of 9. And the grid of 9 is basically teaching us how awareness, compassion, and engagement are skills that we teach in the domains which are personal, social, and systems. And actually, if we just took a couple of seconds to look at this grid, we would realize that the skills of self-compassion, compassion for others, all these skills that are demonstrated here allow us to overcome almost every challenge that we face. So if it is procrastination, then perhaps self-regulation is what would come into play. If it is not being able to understand somebody, it would be interpersonal awareness, compassion for others. So really this grid of 9 answers all your problems with some solution. Next slide, please. Just a quick quote from His Holiness, which really says that love and compassion are not luxuries. This is something that every single one of us needs, and this is the hallmark of the C learning curriculum. Next slide, please. So one of the ways in which C learning is different is that it really takes on a resiliency-informed approach. It's not trauma-informed. It's not trying to correct behavior. It basically functions from a space of seeing every child as resilient. Every child is very capable of developing the skills if they are given compassion and if they are given guidance. And just a few minutes ago, Dr. Anuradha Rai very correctly pointed out the importance of this in developing strong student-teacher relationships. Next slide, please. So at BIS, we believe very, very strongly that for any curriculum to be impactful, it cannot really be taught in isolation. We need to work not just with our students, but with teachers and parents if we really want to make a difference. So when we educate parents, teachers, and students concurrently, we are ensuring consistency of messages. We are ensuring that we all approach well-being in the same manner. There is then also collaboration among the parents, the teachers, the students. They can work together. We reinforce positive behaviors, skills that are taught. We find a similar way in dealing with challenges. And in this way, we then create a very unified and supportive community that actively supports and promotes well-being. Next slide, please. So the C curriculum at BIS is taught as part of the regular timetable. We use these wonderful curriculum textbooks. The four of them here are for early elementary, late elementary, middle school, and high school. The high school curriculum was very recently launched about 2 years ago. And currently, the C Learning team is also working on C Play, which is the curriculum for very young children, for kindergartners. These curriculum books are absolutely wonderful. They include detailed lesson plans, guiding questions, prompts, teacher scripts, practices, really very, very easy to follow. Next slide, please. This is an example of the curriculum that we have used in the primary years. The blocks in blue come from the C Learning curriculum, and the ones in yellow are basically add-ons that we see as essential for our students. So in the senior and middle classes, we primarily follow the textbooks and we add on sessions as we see the need. So for example, we would do time management just close to the examinations. We would spend a little bit of time on leadership just before appointments to the new leadership roles. But we primarily use the C Learning curriculum from start to end. Next slide, please. Other ways that we have committed to C Learning in our school, like I've mentioned before, it is part of the timetable. So it is not something that we do as and when we have time and space. It is timetabled all the way from lower prep to grade 12. Our entire staff completed the 3-day Ed Prep workshop of C Learning. So things like resilience, emotional literacy, reappraisal, concepts of C Learning are now familiar to our entire staff. We also have many teachers who took this a step further and completed the facilitation course, which means they are now even trained to facilitate other people to offer C Learning in their schools. We recently had a collaboration with a school from Japan where students got together on a Zoom platform and just answered questions about happiness and well-being. The exercise was an interesting one. It showed similarities, it showed common strands, it also showed differences, but just very interesting to see different schools coming together to work together for student well-being. And in the primary school, we also take one topic from the grid of 9, and we focus on that in depth for an entire month. And that means that early morning check-ins are around that topic. The student government does their assemblies around that topic. So really it allows for the C Learning curriculum to become very, very imbibed in our day-to-day practices. We also have practices such as grounding and resourcing that many of our teachers are now familiar to do with our students. And I'm very happy to say that even after a little initial resistance, all our students realize the importance, realize the value of these very short practices, and they ask for these practices before examinations or even when they've had a slightly stressful day. Next slide, please. So We also understand that teacher well-being is very, very critically important for student well-being. The two really cannot be kept apart. They are interconnected and they're mutually influential. We recognize that the well-being of teachers has a profound impact on the overall learning and learning environment. And this is for a number of reasons. Teachers serve as role models, and therefore, a teacher who prioritizes their own well-being will demonstrate healthy habits that we hope our students will then model. There is some emotional contagion, which is the emotional state of the teacher is very contagious. So if a teacher walks into class very stressed out or dysregulated, it is very likely that the class will follow in the same vein. But a teacher who has looked after herself, who is positively, who has had a good emotional experience, will also likely to create is more likely to create a supportive environment for her class. It'll impact classroom management. It impacts student relationships, the quality of teaching, and all in all, basically, this is very important for our students. And therefore, we realize that we don't just need to teach our teachers how to provide well-being for our students, but we also have conducted a number of workshops that give them the competencies for themselves and for their students. Can I have the next slide, please? So these are the teacher workshops that we have conducted. Exploring our inner calm with C-learning, which basically talks about emotional literacy, self-compassion through kintsugi, which allows people to be a little more accepting of their flaws, showing self-compassion for yourself in entirety, and also how to have compassionate classrooms. Next slide, please. So the sessions for our parents have also followed very similar themes. We want to educate them about the concepts, about the themes that are covered in class. Like I said before, this allows us to have a shared vocabulary. This allows the parents to be aware of the strategies that we have taught the students in class, and that way they can support their own children in developing important skills. Next slide, please. This was a parent workshop that we did with the parents of younger children, how to manage big emotions for little children. Next slide, please. And now, perhaps just to tie it all into the webinar, the importance of teacher beliefs and how that impacts the well-being of the students. So the short answer to this is teacher beliefs impact the well-being of our students in many, many ways. Teacher beliefs play a very significant role in both the approach and the outcome, because it shapes the commitment, it shapes the engagement. If a teacher believes in the importance of well-being, they will then allocate time, they will allocate resources, they will allocate effort in implementing the curriculum with dedication. They will find opportunities to teach skills that are potentially outside of their curriculum, but which they see as perhaps more important for their students. A teacher who has a growth mindset is also more likely to be more adaptive to the diverse needs of her students, will try more strategies, will be more flexible with the strategies. A teacher who is more open and accepting of her own flaws and shortcomings is more likely to be open and accepting of the flaws and shortcomings of her students. The teacher belief will also contribute very directly to the classroom culture. And we will see this in the day-to-day interactions. And a teacher who believes that this is important will very, very seamlessly integrate these principles into the activities that she or he picks and chooses. And so to summarize, really the teacher's beliefs have a very, very profound impact. And therefore, fostering positive teacher beliefs is really crucial towards the success of well-being and any kind of well-being initiative in a school. Next slide. And just to end, I would like to say that none of these are quick fixes. Well-being curriculum in school cannot be ticked off as done and over with. These are curriculum that take a long time. They take a lot of dedication, a fair amount of effort, and we might not always see the outcome. We might not always see positive outcomes very quickly. But I think we have to know that at some point in time, all of the things that we teach our students, the strategies, how to cope with the challenges that they will face, will be very helpful to them. And we have to keep at this, even though we sometimes might not see very immediate results. And with that, I am done with the presentation of how we implement C-learning at BIS.
Thank you, Ms. Priyaga. And it was wonderful hearing you and how you all have implemented the well-being curriculum, especially how it's embedded in your timetable and how you'll have taken care that all teachers are on the same page. And the beauty of it is also that, taking care of the teacher's own well-being, because I think that's where it all stems from, their beliefs. If their beliefs and their well-being is taken care of, and very important, these things may not happen overnight. Of course, we need to give time. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation of the C learning curriculum. So, and you've also brought out very well the, three important stakeholders all need to be involved. And on that, I think we move on to Dr. Manjeer Mukherjee, who will be talking about how parents play a role in creating this kind of a environment and, support the teacher, because as we say, the child comes for a little while to school, but maximum they are at home, and it can't be different, what happens in school and what happens at home. And of course, BIS is working in that area, but I think Arpan has worked a lot in that, and we'd love to hear from Dr. Manjeer how and what Arpan does in involving parents for the well-being of students. Over to you, Dr. Manjeer.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, to just set the context of what well-being is and what beliefs are, and talking about a model which works so beautifully for the well-being. I'll just kind of start from maybe drift a little bit before I come to the point on parents, and just to set the context in the area that we work in.
Sure.
Yeah. So in terms of well-being, can I have the next slide, please? And I was glad when some of you responded saying that for learning to happen, we need a safe environment. I think it just makes me glad to hear that, because sometimes even that acknowledgement and recognition is very critical. And while we have been talking about well-being, I think the reality is that we exist in a world where abuse, maltreatment of children is also a reality. And Arpan exists to make this world free of child sexual abuse, and that's where we stand for, that's where we work from. And if we scratch the surface, next slide, please. If we scratch the surface, it's not a rare occurrence, right? It's not a rare occurrence. We can move on with the slides as I speak. Thanks. It's not a rare occurrence. 1 in 2 children are sexually abused in India. And we have heard so much about that for children's well-being, it's not only about physical, it's so much about their social, cognitive, psychosocial, mental, and emotional well-being. And if a child is traumatized, there is no way a child will be able to kind of be optimally learning in the school system. And again, 97% of abusers are generally known to the victim. And there are 187 cases of CSA which are reported every day. And this is based on the latest NCRB data. Uh, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is not also like, this is not what it is happening in reality. Next slide, please. So if this is, and it's not only about numbers. Yeah, as we all kind of mentioned, that well-being is so critical. And if a child who is coming to school, either being sexually abused at home or is being sexually abused in school, there is no way a child will be able to kind of learn or observe what is being given to them in whatever the best environment that we create with our teachers and parents. Because we're focusing on education today, just to kind of bring back to education, I think there have been enough research to show that child sexual abuse can impact educational achievement, it can thwart learning, impact classroom behavior, increase dropout. What it does is basically affect all domains of well-being that we just spoke about. Uh, it can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, suicidal tendency. So it becomes very, very critical that we approach this issue to create a safe learning environment. And that's where the person safety education model, we can move to the next slide, comes in, which basically works towards creating an environment for children which can create a safe learning environment. And it does that by working with all three stakeholders, which is children themselves, the teachers, and the parents together. With children, well, it is a lot about talking to them about and making them understanding about social emotional competencies, as all of us spoke about. It's also very critical for them to identify unsafe situations, learn to refuse them, and seek help, and understand it's not their fault. Work with the adults, be it the school management, the teacher, the parents, even the support staff who play such a key role around children in schools, is to kind of sensitize them again so that all of us are speaking to children in the same vocabulary. There is no mixed message that is going to children. And to provide children a safe space for disclosure, whether for sexual abuse that they have experienced or for indulging in sexual misbehavior, because children also cross other children's personal boundaries and they need that space of non-judgmental space for them to come and talk about it. And work to heal children who disclose. So this is the model that we have been working on. We can move on to the next slide. And if we see that the core belief in this model is to strengthen the child protection safety net for children. And in order to kind of create that safety net around children, what is important is to strengthen the external support system, and both by empowering parents and teachers together. So it's a no-brainer to say, we can move on. It's a no-brainer to say that for this to really happen, parent and teacher need to work together in it. We have heard a lot about teachers' belief, so I'll focus on parents' belief and how that can hinder children's well-being, and what can we do to kind of ensure that we all work collaboratively to work around it. Partnership, as we all know, is based on three C's: communication, consistency, and collaboration. And communication, when is it open, clear, and constructive and timely, and is anchored in respect and empathy, I think that is where it kind of works. And when it comes to parent and teacher relationship, they just complement each other as carers and becoming that helpful, trusted adult for children, who when children can reach out to. And they know that these are people who have really initiated open communication for them to come to for anything that they are troubled with. And this becomes in our work all the more critical when we are working with children who has experienced sexual abuse or has any kind of trauma history, because negative beliefs in any one of the adults or the support system around the child can re-traumatize the child, and it can hinder the entire healing process. So moving on from the beliefs that can create hurdles for children's well-being, are basically the idea around, and I'll kind of, from a practitioner's point of view, there's a very thing that we hear, having worked with almost 3.1 million children and adults till date, that we were never trained on life skill. Nobody did SE with us. So, and we're still doing fine, aren't we? So where is the need coming from? I think that's the first belief that we need to really work with. Yeah. Because is there really a need? Am I not a good parent? Am I not a good child? Am I not doing what am I supposed to do? So where is that? The second, I think, as a country, as a culture, we're too focused on academic performances. And just because we are so focused there, we feel all of this and extracurricular, I think that word in itself kind of tells us that this is beyond what we're supposed to do and kind of takes up that focus. When we come to the issue that we are working about, it's also about a denial that child sexual abuse is not my reality. Yeah, it happens, and there has been a shift in parents' perception over the years that we have been working now. But it's still selective denial. It happens, but it doesn't happen with my kid. It doesn't happen in my family. It doesn't happen by my family members. So I think that becomes a very tricky belief to kind of work with for teachers who are trained on person safety and trying to integrate any kind of abuse prevention, social emotional learning skills in the school system. And obviously, part of that othering is also that this happens in slums, this happens in low socioeconomic communities, not in families of yours and mine. So I think that othering is very, very prominent here. I think this is something that we have all heard whenever we have worked, that this is not part of our culture. If you talk about gender, is not part of culture. If you're talking about abuse prevention, it's not part of our culture. So I think how do we kind of, and these are beliefs which are very ingrained. These are ingrained through our own socialization processes. So I think as teachers, even as teachers, if we have kind of shifted our belief systems, how do we really interact with parents with respect and empathy is the key while we are kind of trying to do it. And because as part of person safety education curriculum, we talk to children about private parts, we talk to them about sexual abuse, the other belief that comes in our way that this will rob children of their innocence. Yeah, they will start talking about it in front of my in-laws, and how will I manage that? And these are very real concerns. These are not concerns which we can say that why are you talking about it because you don't understand. It's not that. It's their real challenges. So I think that validation of those real challenges are very critical if we really want to kind of move with them collaboratively. The another core belief that it is if child sexual abuse has happened, it's the child's fault. And by saying it's the child's fault, we as adults are kind of shading off our responsibility that it's us who need to protect the child around us. Also, the belief that it can never happen with my child because my child does not interact with strangers and they don't even speak to them. I'm around my children 24/7. But the fact of the matter, if you go back to my slide on the data, 97% of abusers are known to children. So it's not about I being around 24/7 around children. And it's not practical for parents to be around children 24/7. Even if parents who acknowledge that sexual abuse happens, they feel this is part of growing up and children will grow up. Children will forget. However, research and experience shows children doesn't forget sexual abuse. They definitely heal out of it. They definitely lead life as they should when well supported, but they don't forget it. When children disclose, because we have created spaces for disclosures to the facilitators, to the teachers in the schools, there's also a huge denial from accepting sexual abuse has happened with my child. And secondly, how could my child go and talk to an external person without talking to me while my child kind of tells everything to me? So I think there is a disconnect and it's very hard. Like if you think from a parent's perspective, it's really hit parents very hard to kind of accept that my child had the space to go and talk to somebody else while the child couldn't really talk to me. Well, I think I'm really a cool parent. Also, the child is lying. And in our experiences and through research, children don't lie about experiences like sexual abuse. They just don't. So I think these are beliefs that we need to kind of work with if we really have to integrate this kind of programs. And we cannot do it without parents along with us. But how do we do it? Yeah, that's the question that we need to answer. Yeah, we can move. Yeah. I think the first and foremost, what have worked for us, and I can only share my learnings, is to involve parents. Involve parents at very different stages. So when we start off the program, we have an initial session with parents just to tell them what are we going to talk to your children about. what can you expect during the program? Because children will have new vocabularies. They will come and use those vocabularies. You need to exactly know how do you respond to that vocabulary. So rather than saying, oh, why are you talking about this thing? These are dirty things to be spoken about, because then the child is getting mixed messages, which will not really help the child. So how do you even respond to it? The child can even come and disclose to you now that the child knows that they need to talk to a trusted, helpful adult. How do you even respond effectively to a disclosure? And again, what we do is after the program, we again connect with parents just to understand what has been their experience. How has the child interacted? Has the child come and spoken to them? What can they do if after the intervention is done, if the child comes and disclose? We also send in materials to home for parents to look at worksheets and things like, so that they can co-create. So just to initiate those conversations with parents, give parents tools and skills to talk about it, so that the child also know that I have my parents as I have my teacher to talk about this. However, this can only happen if you operate from a space of respect. It's very easy to come to a conclusion and say, okay, parents don't care about their children. They just don't. But the fact we need to operate from a space that and believe that parents are also concerned. It's maybe their beliefs which are formed because of different kind of social cultural norms that they have grown up with. And we need to really deeply listen that where is this resistance coming from? Is this resistance because I don't really want my child to get this information? Is this resistance because I feel that my child will lose innocence? Is this resistance because I myself have been sexually abused 30 years back and have never had space to heal it or talk to somebody about it? Because the resistance can come from different spaces. I think identifying where is it coming from is very critical to take that right step to kind of address it well. And at each stage to even validate their feelings and show their empathy, show empathy is, because I think even when you are disclosing to a parent about a disclosure that a child has made to you, denial is very normal. And even if it's a family member, then it's even more higher. So how do you even address that denial? How do you validate that parent? And the parent is also operating from a huge sense of guilt, because nobody at the end of the day want their children to be sexually abused. So how do you really validate that parent? How do you really hold hands with that parents rather than kind of being judgmental? I think that once you've passed that stage, you've really won over the parent. And then the collaboration is not something that you're really seeking for. It just happens naturally because you have become a support system for the parent to come back and talk to. Because parents also don't have a lot of people, especially in this kind of situations, to talk to and ask for support. What we've also seen is to kind of talking objectively with facts really help. It's making them aware, not to create a fear or a paranoia. My God, what has happened? What will happen now? Nothing can be done with your child. I think that's not helpful. Giving them tools, taking very baby steps, just help them to kind of be there and take charge of that situation. Also, sometimes when we are trying to collaborate, we are also in this space of we try to prove that we are right, and that can kind of backfire. What is important, even to give people that time and space to kind of understand from their own learning. So I would say that has changed over the years, but initially when we started doing the program, we would have many parents tell us, but I don't want my child to sit in this class, I just don't want it. Even after much rationalization, giving them facts and all of that. And we have told them, we have respected their decision. We have said, okay, fine. We're just letting you know the consequence of it. The child will still have this information. The child will talk to their peers and the peers will give this information. Only thing, it will be in a roundabout way where there is a chance of misinformation creeping in. And your child also feeling left out because the child is taken out of the class and doesn't know what's happening. So we're just kind of making you aware, but we do respect your decision. We have had parents then come back to us because the child has gone and said, but my friends did such nice worksheet, they sang song, they did this, they did that, and I couldn't do it. The parents have come back saying that, okay, I'm okay to kind of have the child back in your class. So sometimes just giving them those little steps and this small space and just making them aware of what can be the consequences helpful. Also just presenting them, what are you actually doing? Because a lot of time, especially around sexual abuse, the fear is that you're going to talk to children about sex in an age inappropriate manner. But when you show them actually the things that you're talking to them is not in any way age inappropriate, not making them being fearful of adults around them, it's not making them feel that the whole world is bad. I think that's where they start gaining confidence. So I think respecting their decision, even if they're different, is becomes very critical. Similarly, offering help and support, because in a lot of cases, especially when you're handling cases of disclosure, the parent also don't know who to reach out to, how to take this ahead. So just kind of giving them that support and telling your own limitations of till where you can help, but connecting the parent to other resources who can be helpful, because as teachers we're also not omnipresent. We also have our own limitations, be it personal, professional, organizational. So connecting them really helps to bring that network. And I think reinstating faith, reinstating that things don't stop here and they have people around us and they're not alone. I think these are some measures in terms of collaboration which has really helped for us to kind of work with parents, take them in our stride, be making them our champions of talking about the program to other parents. So we have had parents who initially would have kind of being apprehensive of the program, had their child go through it, then they have come back to us to cover resources and did it with children in their communities, in their schools if the program was not really running. So I think they become your spokesperson if you are with them when they need you. And I think that space of respect really helps to kind of collaborate together, and that belief that we are in this together, we all want to create a safe space for children. Yeah, and with that I would like to.
Thank you, Dr. Manjeer. That was really very, very informative, especially the data you gave us on sexual abuse, child sexual abuse. And I would say, though Dr. Manjeer spoke about child sexual abuse, the data itself was shocking because we, think that well-being, and when one of the things, if she says is this, it is really relevant that she spoke about child sexual abuse. But overall, even there's physical abuse, there's verbal abuse, which all affect a well-being. And I think what you spoke, Dr. Manjeer, would even be relevant for that also, like, in the sense that way. And another thing which again you touched upon was the teacher believes, like we said in the beginning, the teachers themselves come from certain backgrounds, certain this where sex and talking about sex is a taboo, and those kind of beliefs will even prevent a teacher from getting in touch with a parent, let alone getting in touch with the child themselves. So that was wonderful. So we'll now move on to our open forum before we summarize all the key points that our speakers have given us as takeaways. And also, I would like to tell you that the PPTs can be mailed to you, whatever information our speakers have presented today. So if you wish to have them, please do let us know. So do we have any questions for the open forum? Shruti and Vinita? Shruti, Vinita, any questions?
I think you can, no, I think you can go ahead and ask the questions that you had.
Okay, Shruti, there was some question from the YouTube, this, and Dr. Anuradha Rai has a
Yes.
question. So which one, shall we take, Shruti, the question that you had, and then we'll ask Dr. Anuradha Rai. She has a question. Shruti?
Yes, so there's one question that says, how does teacher beliefs and well-being, how do they balance well-being and schoolwork? That is the question that was asked in the YouTube chat.
And it was any of the speakers can respond to it, or was it?
Yes, any of the speakers, yes.
Okay, so Priya, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, because I think you did give out a detailed curriculum, and even I had those questions that,
No
yeah,
problem.
Priya, yeah.
So I think when we see it as one more thing on our plate, it becomes a little overwhelming. But when we see it as something that is an answer to many problems, we realize the importance of finding the space and finding the time to provide this to our students. And I am very, very humbled to be part of a leadership that has seen the importance of this. Supriya is here, our principal, Dr. Cyrus Vakil. They needed absolutely no convincing. They knew this was important. And when we brought it to them and said, can we put it into the curriculum, it was done. So it really is not, I know occasionally it is seen as one more thing to do, but there are ways to integrate it in such a way that it is not eating into a teacher's
Seriously. Can you all hear Priya?
this
No,
Okay,
no,
I
no,
think,
can't hear her
yeah.
anymore.
time for
And
her
she's
other
frozen.
subjects.
Ah,
It
there, she's
requires
back. She's back.
collaboration between.
Priya,
Now,
we lost you for a little while.
sorry,
Could you
I don't.
repeat the last few sentences?
Okay.
We lost you for a little
So,
while. Yeah.
okay. So I said that it can seem like it is difficult, but it requires a little bit of collaboration. It requires a little bit of planning to see how this can be done in the best way. And there are ways to even integrate this into subjects. So, for example, when we're talking about compassion, if our English teachers chose to pick a text which spoke about compassion, self-compassion, compassion for others, compassion with discernment, we do not realize that there are so many ways in making a difference, even through subjects. We can talk about interdependence when we talk about economics, when we talk about business management. So there are many, many ways in which the C learning curriculum, and I can only speak to that curriculum, the C learning curriculum also lends itself through the different subjects, but that is just one way to do it. There are many ways, and there are many possibilities in finding a solution that works for you and your school. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you, Priya. I think Dr. Rai is also wanting to address this question or ask a question. I don't know. Yeah, Dr. Rai.
No, so I have a question from Dr. Manjeer, but before that, just to add to what Priya has said. So I think it's again about the attitude, what she said. It's about the lens from which you're looking. You don't need to have extra additional activities. And she gave a beautiful example. I'm a language teacher. So every time, you don't even have to bring in a new story. That same story, so I remember grade 11 and 12. So there were poems like Childhood or Aunt Jennifer's Tigers and Ranga's marriage or something. And I would ask them, I would say that, tell me, why do we have this particular piece? What is it, that we need to learn, So we would have a, very robust discussion on that. And it would make it so kind of, and you see, that is how it has to be seamless. It doesn't have to be, because when you do it as an extra activity, an additional activity, it will remain. So they'll say this is a C curriculum thing, but this is real life. It doesn't, it has to be, and I think again, Priya said it, this is to be highlighted at the planning stage. So when you're doing that interdisciplinary, when you are doing your thing, then you look at, okay, where does this come in? Where is that scope for me to, add this? And all the teachers working together,
Yes.
I don't think it is an additional thing at all. In fact, it would make it so much fun and and enjoyable. It's not so. I please don't look at it like that. It is.
And as Dr. Rai, you had also put in your talk that the larger goal is to have an empowered citizen. And if you look at it, that even though I am spending some time away from school work, my larger goal is that this is, and that's the larger goal of education, I guess. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's again about mainstreaming, well-being. So because we are looking at it that our school role is academic excellence. We are doing well-being as an additional. We are doing you a favor by, so when we look at it, no, my goal is to have a child who's well settled, well informed, rounded, who knows how to make friends, who knows what are good sources, who knows, who's compassionate, understands, accepts differences. Well, everything else will come into play. So I think it's just our own mindset, so again, we come back to teacher beliefs. So I think we need to unlearn and look at it. And if we believe in it, our children will believe,
Absolutely.
our parents will believe. That is what I wanted to
Yes.
And Dr. Manjeer, I have had this, so we do this gender equity sensitization program for schools. So we have about 30 plus schools. We are doing a pilot. So one of the issues, so initially when we started with this cohort, teachers had a lot of apprehensions and even principals and, a lot of questions, a little discomfort with the language, with the constructs and everything. And now when they are doing it with their students, because they've gotten, like we are almost towards the end of the program, the parents sometimes come and say, especially when it relates to the other gender. So they are talking about, where is the need? And I don't want you to talk about this thing. You're influencing my child and, unnecessarily putting these ideas. So when you talked about loss of innocence or how does one address that?
So I think what we have done is basically one, like if I start from teachers, because I didn't focus on teachers' beliefs because the other speakers were focusing there on. But I think we'll have to start with the school management. And I think Ms. Aga made that point. I think once your leadership is convinced, your job is done. And if you have a committed leadership, and that we have seen in schools which have integrated the person safety education program and is running without Arpan year on year, yeah, and it's just you need that leadership to be convinced that my job is to create a safe learning environment for children, and it's not only academics. I think that's the starting point. I think validation of inhibitions for us has really worked well. We do validate that, yes, these are not something that we speak about every day. We have not grown speaking about this every day. And that validation, and to tell us, because some people who even joins our organization initially takes a lot of time to get really a hang of talking about it very freely and openly, like names of private parts. Today you go back to any team member at Arpan, they would speak to you as if they're talking about any other parts of the body, but that's not the case when they first step into the organization. So we tell them that it's not even it's not as it is difficult for you today, it has been difficult for us once upon a time as well. So as teachers, you do definitely need to practice, do need to talk about it. If you have inhibitions, come back, seek support. We are there to help you. I think giving them that space and acknowledging that, yeah, it can be embarrassing, it can be difficult, I think is the first step, because they didn't know that somebody is really listening to our concerns and not kind of saying that, okay, we are not capable enough to do it. I think that has it. Secondly, talking about genders, I think we have got responses regarding, should we be doing these classes as mixed gender classrooms, or should we be doing it as only one gender at one time? Because I think it creates a lot of and what we have seen that with younger children, like till grade 6, we really kind of talk to schools and say it's great that if we can do it together. If you're doing it together, you're killing curiosity. It's not that, acha, what happened in your class, what happened in my class. These are things that we can talk together. We can respect each other personal spaces and boundaries. The second is with the adolescent, and especially in grade 6, 7th, 8th, we have given schools the choice to do it the way they think it's important, because those are spaces where the adolescents are also kind of coming to terms with their own changes, and there's a lot of embarrassment around that. So in that age group, what we have generally seen that in some schools, if you separate boys and girls, they're more open to ask questions, they're more open to kind of talk about their inhibitions. However, again, from 9 to 12, once they've surpassed that initial you see that they're again okay to come back and talk to you about it. So I think this has all been learning as and when we have piloted. So we have piloted in different kind of settings to see what really works. Yeah, but I can connect offline and we can share more on that. Yeah,
I guess parents are stakeholder who can be very difficult at times, and at the same time, if given the right involvement and the right this, they can become a great support structure too. So I think we have to and Dr. Manjeet did give a lot of strategies where, though she was focused on sexual abuse, child sexual abuse, she did those strategies would be useful even in the case of gender equity. So we'll go on in this of paucity of time. We will not have any more questions. So Shruti has already put up.
There's
Yeah.
just one question from
Yeah.
Ashish Kelsey. He's
Yeah.
asking, does NEP 2020 include any guidelines for student and teacher well-being?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So any speaker would like to address
So
that?
in NEP 2020, and I can see, I'll again come back to sexual abuse because that's the domain we work in. And so NEP 2020 does talk about teaching children about safe and unsafe touches, which has been a huge step and a lot of advocacy of Arpan to work with the NCRT and the ministry on to getting it and the NEP committee. So I think it does talk about that. It talks about emotional well-being and how teachers can initiate open communication on different issues, including sexual harassment. So you have a space in the policy document to kind of, if you want to use that to kind of really implement it.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Jumana.
And I think NEP does talk about holistic curriculums and, therefore includes a lot about personal, social, emotional curriculum, which Priya has introduced us to. And our next webinar is going to be a more, we'll dive deeper into well-being curriculums and holistic curriculum that NEP talks about. So NEP has spoken, and that's the reason why we also wanted to take up this theme. The various FLN, agendas all talk about this as a goal one, where physical health and well-being are there. So I hope that's sufficient. So shall we move on and shall we summarize and go on? And while I'm summarizing, I think I would request participants and everyone to fill in the feedback form. So it was wonderful hearing all our four speakers, and we got a lot of takeaways from each of them. Mrs. Supriya Atal, we got to know from her how education is a social process. And we heard about equity, open communication, being non-judgmental. And, she also brought in her take on how economists have stressed on the importance of well-being. She gave us two theories, the self-determination theory and the PERMA model, both very relevant in today's time. Then our next speaker, Dr. Rai, spoke to us about student-teacher relationships and how, investing in the student-teacher relationships will lead to having our students becoming empowered citizens, and the advantages of having, therefore, this positive student-teacher relationship. And she also brought in about getting to know the child, not just on a superficial level, but more in depth by caring, listening, getting to know the child's strengths, giving them opportunities to shine and feel success. She also spoke about, the communication between a student and teacher, where it's not only verbal but non-verbal, and humor, bring in humor. All this helps in the student-teacher relationship, which was very, very valid. Next, we had Ms. Priya Aga, who has introduced us to a C curriculum, which is of the Dalai Lama in conjunction with Emory University. And what was interesting about this curriculum was the two terms, emotional literacy and ethical literacy. This is the first time I've heard of it, and I'm very interested to know more. And she gave us the grid of 9, and of course the 3 dimensions: awareness, compassion, engagement, and how the grade of 9 has been embedded into their school curriculum and the timetables. And then she also brought out the importance of the teacher's own well-being. And that's the first step before you implement any curriculum, because when the teacher's well-being is taken care of, the teacher beliefs do come out. And if the teacher believes that her well-being is important, then the teacher will believe in children's. And then we had Dr. Manjeer, who took us to a new aspect of well-being, which often we might not be, paying attention to so much: the prevention of child sexual abuse and its importance in well-being, where she spoke to us about how negative beliefs also, sometimes breaking these negative beliefs is the harder part, especially with parents, because and she gave us some very good strategies on this. And she brought out the importance of having a child protection safety net. Thank you, Dr. Manjeer. And having a safe learning environment. So thank you, everyone. It was wonderful having all of you here, and I just have no words to express. It was really wonderful hearing you all and all the important takeaways. So thank you for giving your time for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the participants
Just
and
a few
audience.
announcements by
Yes.
Shruti. Just a few announcements. Yeah, Shruti, go ahead, please.
Just bear with me one moment. I'm just sharing the screen. So thank you once again to all our speakers, our host and facilitator for conducting this webinar so beautifully, and to all our participants who joined us on Zoom as well as in the live chat. We really had a lot of fun interacting and engaging with all of you. Just a couple of announcements. We've posted the feedback link in the Zoom chat box as well as the YouTube live chat. So we really request you to take some time out and fill the feedback form, because this would help us plan for our future webinars. The recording of this webinar will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel. We shall be sharing the recording link with everybody, as well as the presentations and some reading material for more information on all the topics that were covered today. There are 2 more webinars. One webinar will be in February on the mental well-being curriculum, and the next will be in March on the importance of a holistic curriculum. So we will be sharing details very soon. So please do also register for our upcoming webinars, and please do share the information with others as well. We believe that we are a learning and a growing community, so we would really love to keep interacting and engaging with all of you. Please do write to us at contact@muktanganedu.org. You can write to us to know more about us, or if you're interested in volunteering or making any kind of contribution, please do write to us. If you want to know more about our work, please do go and visit our website. And also you can contribute to our online donation platform, so that you can help many children and teachers realize their dreams and gain access to quality education. We're also active on social media, so do follow at NGO Muktangan on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please do keep sharing updates with your friends and communities and networks, so that we can keep this conversation going. Thank you once again, everyone, for being a part of the webinar.
Thank you. And
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and
everyone.
bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day. Thank you.